Have you ever noticed how we wake every morning as if we are already late for a race we never even signed up for? The alarm rings, and it feels less like a gentle invitation to life and more like a siren warning us that we're already behind. We rush to check our phones, scroll through endless notifications, sip tea while replying to emails, and somehow convince ourselves that this chaos is normal. But let me ask you this. Is this the life our soul truly longs for? We've become so addicted to motion that we've forgotten the meaning. So caught up in doing that, we've forgotten how to simply be. But there is a sacred truth, a forgotten treasure that can change everything. A soulful start can beat the most stressful race. Because the problem is not the world around us. The problem is the war within us. And the solution is not more speed, but more stillness. The answer is not in starting strong in the eyes of the world, but in starting deep in the presence of God. Not in a religious sense, but in that silent space where your heart connects with the source. Today, let's go on a journey together. Not to run faster, but to return deeper. To reclaim our mornings from madness and turn them into moments of meaning. Not because we have time, but because we have a soul, and every soul deserves peace before performance, depth before deadlines, alignment before ambition. Have you ever noticed how most people open their eyes in the morning and already feel tired? Not because their body is exhausted, but because their mind is already running. Running through worries, running through deadlines, running through expectations. The first breath of the day feels like the beginning of a war with time, a war with demands, a war with the world. And slowly, without even realizing it, that sacred moment, waking up, becomes just another task, just another item on a never-ending to-do list. But what if I told you that the moment you wake up is not meant to be rushed? It's meant to be revered. Because waking up is not just about the body becoming conscious. It's about the soul being given another opportunity, a new chance to live meaningfully. You see, when we wake up and immediately throw ourselves into stress, we are sending a very loud signal to life: I don't have time to live. I only have time to chase. And that chase doesn't end. From the moment the eyes open until they close again at night, we're running. Running without direction. Running without grounding. Running without asking, why am I running? But a soulful start, even if it's just a few minutes, is not about being lazy or slow. It's about being intentional. It's about acknowledging that this moment is a gift, not a given. Every single morning is a divine whisper saying, you're still here. I still believe in you. I think about it. Not everyone who slept last night woke up this morning. But you did. That means life, or God, or the universe, whatever name you give it, has chosen you again. Chosen you for a reason. But how often do we remember this truth? We act like we are owed this life. We act like waking up is automatic. It's not. It's a miracle in plain sight. And when something is a miracle, we should treat it like one. Would you ever rush through a miracle? Would you wake up on your birthday and immediately check your emails before even smiling at the gift of the day? Then why do we treat our ordinary mornings as if they hold no value? Let's bring this into something more relatable. Picture a child waking up on their birthday. The joy, the excitement, the sense that something special has begun. They don't wake up complaining or scrolling. They wake up glowing. Not because the world is different that day, but because they feel different. That sense of wonder transforms even the air around them. Now imagine if we could tap into that same feeling every morning. Not because it's our birthday, but because it's our chance. A chance to live with joy. A chance to make better choices. A chance to love, to grow, to serve, to forgive. But we don't have to fake joy. We just have to notice the miracle. Try this tomorrow morning. When you wake up, don't touch your phone. Don't rush to the mirror. Just lie still for a moment. Feel your breath. Feel the beat of your heart. Realize that these simple things, breath and heartbeat, are beyond your control, yet they are happening for you. That's love's grace. That's God working silently. Now ask yourself, what kind of day do I want to live today? What meetings you have? Not what chores are pending. But what experience do you wish to live? Do you want to live today with peace or panic? With purpose or pressure? With awareness, autopilot? Your answer to that question will shape your entire day. And the way you start your morning will decide whether you live by reaction or reflection. The soul craves connection before it craves achievement. That's why when people succeed on the outside but feel empty inside, it's usually because they've forgotten how to start from within. They've mastered the race but lost their rhythm. But the good news is, the rhythm can be rediscovered. Every morning, you don't need incense. You don't need rituals. All you need is awareness. A few sacred minutes, a deep breath, a silent thank you, a still mind, a gentle connection to the divine. That's how you align yourself before the world pulls you in every direction. And remember, a soulful start doesn't take time. It gives time. Because when the soul is aligned, the mind becomes clear. When the mind is clear, the heart is calm. When the heart is calm, your actions become sharp. And when your actions are sharp, you don't need to chase the world. The world flows with you. So the next time you wake up, don't let stress be your alarm. Let stillness be your greeting. Let gratitude be your first word. Let your soul, not your schedule, dictate your first move. Because in that first sacred moment of the day, you're not just waking up, you're returning to yourself, returning to the divine, returning to the peace that was never lost, only forgotten in the noise. That, my friend, is how soulful starts beat stressful races. Before the noise begins, before the traffic horns, the clinking cups, the notifications, the expectations, there is a sacred space. A space that exists in every morning, but one we often trample over in a hurry to do, achieve and complete. It is the space of silence. A silence that doesn't demand anything. A silence that doesn't pressurize us. A silence that simply is. And yet, we don't value it. We treat it like an empty container, not realizing that holds the potential to shape our entire day. Because the truth is, before you face the sound of the word, you must face the silence of your soul. If you skip this step, you will carry noise even into your quietest moments. The greatest irony of the modern world is that we are afraid of silence. We fill every second with sound. Whether it's background music, a YouTube video while brushing, or messages while walking, we've become allergic to empty moments. But silence is not empty. It's full of awareness, full of clarity, full of God. In silence, you hear not just outside, but what's within your own thoughts, your pain, your hopes, your confusions, but also your peace, your deeper self, the version of you that exists beyond performance, beyond titles, beyond roles. Imagine this. You wake up and instead of grabbing your phone, you simply sit on your bed, eyes closed. No music, no prayer with words, no affirmations, just sitting, breathing, listening. And in that listening, you realize something profound. The world hasn't started yet, you have. You are aware, you are alive, and that's enough. This stillness is not laziness, it's presence. And presence is the foundation of every peaceful day. Let me give you a simple example. Think about a lake. When the water is still, you can see your reflection clearly. But when the water is disturbed, even slightly, everything becomes distorted. Your reflection breaks into fragments. You can't recognize yourself. That's what happens to us when we skip silence in the morning. The moment we open our eyes and jump into action, our inner lake is disturbed. The mind becomes muddy with worry. The heart becomes heavy with pressure. And the soul, it gets buried under the layers of to-do lists and expectations. But when we start with silence, it's like standing in front of a calm lake. We see ourselves clearly. We feel what we are feeling. We understand what is truly important. We are not reacting. We are responding. And this response is born from alignment, not anxiety. Silence helps you reset the internal compass before you start navigating the external world. It reminds you, I am not the noise around me. I am the awareness within me. You might say, but I don't have time. That's what most people believe. But silence doesn't need an hour. It just needs attention. Even 5 minutes of pure silence is more powerful than an hour of mindless action. You don't need a special cushion. You don't need incense sticks. You don't need chants or mantras. All you need is sincerity, a willingness to sit with yourself without trying to fix, change, or rush anything. Think of great musicians. Before they perform on stage, they tune their instruments. It takes a few minutes, but they never skip that part, no matter how many concerts they've done. Because even the finest instrument sounds unpleasant if it's out of tune. Your mind is that instrument, and silence is how you tune it. If you skip the tuning and jump straight into the performance of your day, you may still make noise, but it won't be music. But if you start with silence, even your challenges will have harmony. There is also another beautiful aspect to silence. It allows space for the divine to speak, not in words, but in understanding, in intuition, in that subtle knowing that everything will be okay. In silence, you may not always find answers, but you will find peace. And from that peace, the answers often arise. When you stop trying to control the world for a moment, you start to feel the one who actually holds it all. God doesn't shout, He whispers. And to hear that whisper, we must first become quiet. Let me share something I once heard from a wise monk. He said, if your day begins with noise, your soul spends rest of the day to find its way back to stillness. But if your day begins with silence, your soul carries that stillness into even the noisiest moments. Isn't that beautiful? The world may be chaotic, but your response doesn't have to be. And the strength to respond peacefully begins not in action, but in awareness, in stillness. There's a moment in every morning that has the power to change everything. It's not in the coffee. It's not in the mirror. It's not in checking your calendar. It's the moment when you choose what to focus on. And one of the most powerful yet underrated choices you can make in that moment is gratitude. Not the mechanical kind where we list 3 things just to tick off a habit, but the kind that shifts your inner state completely. That honest, grounded, heartfelt appreciation for something real. Not everything may be right, but something always is. And when you choose to begin your day by honoring that something, you don't just add a positive moment. You change the lens through which your entire day is seen. You see, we've been conditioned to start our day by looking at what's missing, what we haven't done, what we're late on, what went wrong yesterday. And without knowing, We enter the morning like soldiers bracing for battle. But gratitude is a completely different posture. It's not the posture of a warrior. It's the posture of a seeker, a person who recognizes that life is not perfect, but it's still precious. That everything may not be in place, but the fact that you woke up today with breath in your lungs and another chance to live is not small. Let's be real. There will always be something that could be better. The money could be more. The relationships could be smoother. The body could be healthier. The career could be more successful. But if we keep waiting for the perfect moment to be thankful, we might live our whole life chasing an illusion. Gratitude is not about having everything. It's about seeing something. And when you start seeing something, anything, that is good, your mind begins to shift from scarcity to sufficiency, from anxiety to appreciation, from pressure to peace. Take an example from daily life. Think about someone who receives a simple cup of tea made by their spouse or a parent in the morning. Now, two people can receive the same cup. One drinks it while scrolling through their phone, barely noticing it. The other holds it for a moment, looks at the person who made it, and smiles, thinking, they didn't have to do this, but they did. The tea is the same. But the feeling is not. The experience is not. Because one person drank tea, the other drank love. Gratitude is that awareness, that pause, that moment of realizing there's more right than wrong in my life. Maybe your phone isn't the latest, but it works. Maybe you're not in your dream job, but you have a skill that still feeds your family. Maybe your health isn't perfect, but you're still moving, still breathing, still trying. Gratitude is not delusion. It doesn't deny the challenges. It just doesn't allow them to define you. It balances the weight of worries with the lightness of blessings. Even science agrees. Studies show that practicing gratitude improves emotional well-being, strengthens relationships, and even boosts immunity. But more than that, it connects us to something higher. When you say, thank you, without a name, who are you thanking? That invisible giver, that silent supporter. God. Gratitude is one of the simplest and most sincere forms of prayer. And you don't need fancy words. Just a quiet, honest feeling is enough. It could be as simple as waking up and saying, thank you for this bed I slept in. Thank you for the roof above my head. Thank you for the eyes that opened. Thank you for the people I love. Even if we have misunderstandings sometimes, thank you for this breath, this one right now, because in that moment, you're not thinking about your do list. You're not replaying yesterday's stress. You're here, rooted in the now, bathing in presence. And where there is presence, stress cannot survive. What gratitude also does is protect your energy. When we forget to be grateful, we become easy victims of comparison. We open social media and see someone's vacation, someone else's success, someone's perfect morning routine. And suddenly, our own life feels dull. But if you've already filled your heart with appreciation for what you do have, those comparisons don't stick. They bounce off, because when your soul is full, you don't need to borrow happiness from other people's stories. Try this simple shift. The next time something small happens in your favor, someone lets you pass in traffic, a stranger smiles at you, your child gives you a tight hug, pause and whisper inside your mind, thank you. Not just because of what happened, but because you were aware enough to notice. Gratitude is not about big events. It's about small recognitions, small miracles, tiny moments where life touches you softly and reminds you, there's beauty here, even now. So, start your day not with the weight of what you must carry, but with the lightness of what you already hold. Not every morning will be easy. Some will start with pain, confusion, or loss. But even in those moments, there will be some thread to hold on to. A memory, a kind word, a breath, a hope. And that thread, when honored, can become your strength. There is a hidden power in the moments just after you wake up. When your heart is open, your mind is still soft, and your spirit is quietly waking up to the world again. That sacred window, where your day has not yet been touched by noise, is the perfect time to do something that many of us forget: to talk to God before you talk to the world. Not in a ritualistic way, not because of duty or obligation, but because your soul longs for that connection. The world will demand things from you all day long: deadlines, messages, traffic, expectations. But before you give yourself to the world, give your attention to the one who gave you the day itself. We often underestimate how much we carry in our hearts. Worries that haven't been spoken out loud, fears that live quietly in our chests, dreams that feel distant, emotions we're not sure how to express. And before we even make our bed or brush our teeth, we are already carrying weight. But when you speak to God first, in your own way, in your own words, it's like placing that heavy bag down at the feet of someone who understands everything without you needing to explain anything. It's like saying, I don't have all the answers, but I know you do. I may not feel strong, but I know you are. Talking to God doesn't mean sitting cross-legged for hours or quoting scriptures. It can be as simple and as powerful as whispering in your heart, please guide me today. Or, thank you for giving me another chance. It's about starting your day in relationship, not in reaction. The world wants you to react, to jump out of bed and start performing. But the soul wants you to connect, to pause, to relying chosen. Think of it this way. If you were about to travel to an unfamiliar destination, would you open Google Maps halfway through the journey? No, you'd check the route before leaving. You'd ask for directions. You'd make sure you were aligned with the right path. But talking to God in the morning is like checking your internal compass before you walk into the day. It's not about asking for everything to be easy. It's about asking for the strength to meet whatever comes with grace. It's not about demanding blessings. It's about recognizing you're already blessed to be here. One of the most beautiful things about this practice is that it requires nothing from the outside world. You don't need Wi-Fi, a quiet room, or a perfect mood. You don't even need to feel spiritual. You just need to be sincere. And sincerity, when directed toward the divine, has a power unlike anything else. Even if you're confused, even if you're hurting, even if you feel distant from everything, just one honest conversation with God can bring more clarity than 100 motivational videos or quotes. Let's take a very simple example. Imagine you wake up feeling anxious. You don't know why. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's something you can't name. Chosen, instead of opening your phone and drowning that anxiety in distractions, you sit for a moment and say, God, I don't know what this feeling is, but please help me carry it. That small moment becomes sacred. Being chosen, because you're not denying the emotion, you're sharing it. You're not suppressing it. You're offering it. And in that act of offering, healing begins. There is something deeply comforting about knowing that you are not walking into the day alone. That even if no one else understands your worries, your hopes, your inner world, God does. And when you speak to Him, not as a distant power, but as a close friend, everything begins to shift. The heart feels lighter. The mind becomes clearer, and even if the world around you remains chaotic, your inner world starts to find peace. You'll notice that people who begin their day with this connection walk differently. They're not in a hurry to prove themselves. They're not constantly seeking validation. They're not thrown off balance by every challenge. Why? Because they've already anchored their soul before the storms of the day began. They've poured out their fears, their plans, their confusion to the one who listens without judgment and responds in ways that the mind cannot always explain, but the heart can always feel. And even when things don't go as expected, even when the day brings tests or detours, they don't fall apart. Because they didn't build their morning on performance. They built it on presence. God's presence. And that presence gives them a quiet confidence that doesn't scream, but it sustains. That confidence doesn't say, I know what will happen today, but it says, whatever happens today, I will not walk alone. So tomorrow morning, before the world takes your attention, give it to the source. Before the demands arrive, speak to the giver. Before the phone rings, let your heart ring with reverence. Talk to God not because you need something, but because it's the most honest thing you can do. Let your first conversation not be with your inbox, but with your inner being. And when you do, you'll realize the world may speak loudly, but the most powerful voice is the one that speaks in stillness. And it waits for you every single morning. In a world that moves so fast, we often forget that what we allow into our mind first thing in the morning has the power to shape everything that follows. Our thoughts, our choices, our energy, and even our emotional state are deeply influenced by what we consume the moment we wake up. And yet, for most people, the first thing they consume not peace, not wisdom, not clarity, but chaos, endless notifications, news headlines, messages, social media feeds filled with noise, comparison, distraction, and anxiety. And we wonder why we feel restless, why we feel behind, why we feel scattered before the day has even truly begun. But imagine starting your morning differently. Imagine choosing to read or reflect on timeless wisdom. Something that speaks not just to your mind, but to your soul. Something that doesn't just inform you, but transforms you. That kind of morning content doesn't rush you into the world. It prepares you for it. It doesn't push you into panic. It pulls you into presence. The first voice you hear, the first words you read, the first ideas you absorb, they are like seeds planted into the soil of your consciousness. And throughout the day, those seeds grow. So the question is not whether you're planting something. The question is, what are you planting? Imagine this. Two people wake up at the same time. One opens their phone, checks social media, sees someone traveling, someone buying a new car, someone announcing success. Without even realizing it, they feel a little less successful, less happy, less confident. They haven't even gotten out of bed, and their heart is already heavy. The other person wakes up, washes their face, sits for a few minutes, and opens a small book of spiritual reflections. They read a few lines about peace, about gratitude, about trusting the journey of life. Their mind settles, their breath deepens, their heart opens. Both people face the same word, but their mornings are worlds apart. Reading wisdom in the morning isn't about becoming religious. It's about becoming aware. It's about choosing food for the soul before you feed the ego. Wisdom reminds us of what truly matters: character, kindness, purpose, presence. In a world that constantly sells us the idea that we need more to be enough, wisdom whispers, "You're already enough." In a world that makes noise, wisdom teaches us how to listen. In a world that rushes, wisdom teaches us how to pause. And in a world that's always changing, wisdom connects us to something unchanging. Truth. Have you ever noticed how you're what you consume? If you start the day by reading negative news, chances are your conversations and mood throughout the day reflect that heaviness. But if you start the day with a few words that uplift your spirit, that help you reflect on your values, your goals, and your inner peace, you carry that energy into every meeting, every interaction, every decision. It's not magic, it's mindfulness. And let's not forget, wisdom doesn't always have to come from books. Sometimes it comes from still moments. Sometimes it comes from reflecting on your own life, your mistakes, your growth, your journey. Sometimes it comes from nature. Watching a sunrise, listening to the birds, feeling the wind on your face. Sometimes it comes from silence, where the loudest truth can be heard. But whatever form it takes, wisdom always has the same effecting. It slows you down just enough to reconnect with yourself. And in that reconnection, stress loses its grip, fear loses its power, confusion starts to fade. You see, the world will always give you information, but information is not transformation. You can know 1,000 things and still feel lost. But one moment of true wisdom, one powerful reflection, one insight that shifts your perspective, can change the way you live, speak, and respond for the rest of your life. That is the power of choosing what to consume first. Let's take a small but powerful example. Say you read a short morning passage that reminds you everything is temporary, both joy and pain. So don't chase the highs or fear the lows, just live this moment fully. Now when someone irritates you at work, instead of reacting with anger, you remember those words. You breathe. You respond calmly. That one moment of wisdom changed the course of your day. That is not coincidence. That is the power of alignment. So tomorrow morning, before the world floods in with its opinions, updates, and demands, give your soul something real, something grounding, something beautiful. It could be a single quote that reminds you to be patient, a short passage about the power of forgiveness, a page from a spiritual book, a few lines from a wise teacher or saint. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to be true. We live in a world where productivity is praised and business is worn like a badge of honor. From the moment we wake up, our minds are often flooded with tasks, deadlines, appointments, and a long list of things we must get done. We begin our day in a rush, not realizing that this very approach is stealing the soul out of our lives. But imagine this. Instead of jumping straight into action, what if we paused for a few minutes each morning and asked ourselves one simple question? What really matters to me today? Not what the world expects, not what looks impressive on paper, but what feels aligned with your heart, your values, your inner truth. That small shift to align your day with your values instead of just planning it by the clock has the power to turn ordinary mornings into meaningful beginnings. So many people have mastered the art of scheduling, but forgotten the art of prioritizing their soul. We make lists of what needs to be done, but rarely reflect on why it needs to be done. We become so focused on being efficient that we forget to be effective, not just in our tasks, but in our purpose. You might complete 10 tasks in a day, but if none of them move your soul, did you really live that day? That's why before you plan your schedule, you must first return to your center, to the values that make your life worth living. Let's take a simple example from everyday life. Imagine someone who works a high-pressure job every morning. They open their planner and begin assigning tasks, meetings, calls, follow-ups, emails. Their day is full, but their heart feels empty. Why? Because they're moving fast, but not necessarily moving forward. Now imagine if that same person, before making their to-do list, paused and asked, what do I want to bring into this day? Kindness, patience, integrity, compassion. Suddenly, their tasks don't just become things to complete, they become opportunities to live their values. That meeting becomes a chance to listen. That email becomes a chance to be kind. That challenge becomes a chance to grow. Same schedule, different soul. When you align your actions with your values, your energy shifts. There's less stress because you're not doing things just for the sake of doing them. You're doing them from a place of inner clarity. Decisions become easier. Distractions become less tempting. You begin to filter your day through a higher lens. Is this in line with who I truly am? And the beautiful thing is, you don't need hours to do this. A few quiet minutes in the morning, with your eyes closed and your heart open, are enough to bring this alignment. Let's not forget that your time is sacred. Every moment you live is a moment you'll never get back. So why waste it chasing things that don't matter to you? Why give your energy to things that don't nourish your spirit? When you plan your day based only on urgency, you will always feel drained. But when you plan your day based on importance, you feel empowered. The important things are rarely loud. They don't scream for your attention. But they are the things that give your life meaning. Spending time with loved ones, serving someone silently, growing in patience, listening deeply, or simply being present with yourself. Think about a gardener. Before they plant a seed, they study the soil, the sunlight, the season. They don't just throw seeds randomly. They plant with purpose, with alignment. Your day is the soil. Your actions are the seeds. And your values, they are the sunlight. Without them, nothing truly grows. You might be busy watering weeds, thinking you're being productive, but in truth, you're just growing things that drain you. Aligning with your values means knowing what flowers you wish to grow and watering only those. Another beautiful thing happens when you live in alignment. You inspire others. People can sense when someone is grounded, when someone is not just living fast, but living true. Your calm becomes contagious. Your focus becomes admirable. Your peace becomes a quiet invitation for others to do the same. And you don't even have to say much. Your life becomes the message. So tomorrow morning, when you sit down with your notebook or calendar or app to plan your day, begin with your inner compass, not just your clock. Ask yourself, what matters to me today? What do I want to feel at the end of this day? Which values do I want to honor in my actions? Even 5 minutes of reflection can realign your entire path. Because when your day flows from your values, your heart feels lighter. You don't just survive the day, you live it. And you don't just live it, you love it. In the end, we won't remember how many tasks we completed, but we will remember how we showed up for ourselves, for others, and for the moments that made life feel whole. So plan your day, yes, but plan it from the inside out. Let your values be the foundation. Let your soul be the guide. And you'll find that stress begins to dissolve because peace always follows where purpose leads.